Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the first ever live episode of the Musari Show. So today we have a special guest in the house. So this person is a seasoned CEO, entrepreneur, executive coach, and podcast host with over 30 years of experience in leading venture-backed and private equity-backed companies to success. He served as CEO 3 times, and he has a proven track record of driving growth, building exceptional teams, and guiding companies through all stages of development and early startups to large scale organizations. And has also been in, spearheading a lot of successful acquisitions. His leadership journey does include founding and leading companies such as Castiron, who he successfully sold in 2024. He's been the CEO of Bitly, and he managed to scale the team and the business. And he sold that company to Spectrum in 2017, I believe, an eight-figure deal. During his tenure at AOL Local, he grew the revenue to over $50 million in 2013. He also built and sold Outside.in to AOL in 2011, increased Seevast revenue to more than $100 million in 2006, and played a pivotal role in About.com's IPO and eventual sale to Primedia in 1999 and 2000. And above all, he's had a really great approval rating as per Glassdoor of 91%, which is a reflection of his great leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mark Josephson. Mark, thank you so much for joining. It's really an honor to have you on board today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. That bio makes me feel very old.
But yes, I think that's a very modest response for a very impressive career. So today we're going to be chatting around entrepreneurship. As a lot of people in the audience are aware, on this show we do normally talk about issues about entrepreneurship, issues related to personal finance and investment. It's pretty much finance related. So maybe give us a little bit of color of your journey. Obviously, I did give sort of like a highlight of some of your accomplishments. It would be great to hear your journey and how you've managed to see the benefits of entrepreneurship. And when was the turning point in your life of when you decided to be an entrepreneur?
Sure. So I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was raised by two parents who were entrepreneurs and who instilled in me the belief that I was capable of doing whatever I set my mind to. Whether that's true or not remains to be seen, because there's things I've been able to do and things I haven't. But my parents did a wonderful job filling me with confidence and the belief that I could create the future and the life that I wanted to. So I had my first job. I was working before I was allowed to work, doing mowing lawns and shoveling snow and delivering newspapers. And then once I got to be like 16, I got real jobs, or quote unquote real jobs with paychecks from other people. And I've had one ever since. I've never not had a job, and I've never not been working for myself in some way or another.
Okay, that's really great to hear, because I remember in my university days, in South Africa we have what they call the bachelor's degree, and there's also the honors degree. So when you combine both of them, it's the equivalent of an undergrad in the U.S. And I chose small business development, which is entrepreneurship, and I remember I did a study on the key traits of the successful entrepreneurs in the city. So what would you say, looking back at your journey? I do know that you tend to be modest given your accomplishments. So given the challenges you faced, what would be some of the traits that you believe really got you ahead? What would be like the top 3 traits you'd attribute to your success, and why so?
I'm taking notes because this is a good question. I think that if I'm limited to 3, the first one would be optimism. And optimism in this context is the belief that despite evidence to the contrary, there's the art of the possible. So being an entrepreneur, by definition, means you are most likely starting something from scratch, or that never existed before. And you will get a lot of no's, yet you still believe and still see the possibility of it, despite other people telling you and the world telling you that it's giving you the answer that you don't want to hear, which is no. So number 1 is optimism. Number two is grit. It's what you do when you don't win every day. You will not win every day in life or in entrepreneurship. So when you're feeling the least optimistic, or the signal is the worst, or it is the hardest, that's when you have to have the grit. Grit is the willingness to get back up and keep doing the work. And the third thing I would say is a tireless work ethic. There is no substitute for hard work. There is no magic bullet. AI is wonderful. Automation is fantastic, but everyone's going to be using it. So when I meet entrepreneurs, I'm always looking to see, are they optimistic? Do they believe in the possibilities of what they can create? Are they willing to get hit and get back up? And are they willing to do the work? Because results always follow hard work.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Really, really great to hear that. Especially in the field, in this case, a startup entrepreneur that has a very high failure rate. Because I do recall reading multiple articles and multiple research documents that do highlight that within the first 5 years of a business's existence, I can't remember if it's 5 to 10 years, something like I think 90+% of the startups fail for various reasons. So, according to that study, it did show that the number one reason, which was 42% of the cases, was no product market fit. Number two, at 29%, there was a lack of funding. At some point, it's either debt issues or the burn rate exceeds the revenue and it becomes unsustainable for the business to run. And number three is weak and inefficient teams. So maybe tell us a little bit about your journey of I'm pretty sure that to some degree or somehow you may have faced some of these challenges, and maybe tell us a bit how you've overcome those. Maybe starting with maybe a product market fit, because I have seen from your history that you have created and developed non-conventional product that the market responded very well. Maybe tell us a bit about the journey towards product market fit.
Product market fit is a term that's used a lot that sometimes means different things to different people. To me, it just means, are you building something that people want and they're willing to pay for and actually do pay for? And that's a journey sometimes, because you might have a wonderful product, but the market might not be ready for it. And you might be early, or you might be late, or your pricing is wrong, or your positioning is wrong. So it's the science of dialing in all of those elements around your product to build a successful business. And it can take time. It rarely happens right out the gate. You do have to test, experiment, and learn your way to product market fit. And that's what I think about is, what are you doing today? What are the results, and what can you learn from them that will make tomorrow even better? And that's a very entrepreneurial journey to pricing and packaging and positioning and features. So I think from an operational standpoint, I like to start simpler than more complex. When you are doing something more complex, it's harder to understand sometimes what's working and what's not from a product market fit perspective. So you can start with something smaller and learn, and then build and grow and earn the right to do new and better things. So as it relates to product market fit, it's a constant journey, and it's a constant, it when you have it and you feel it when you don't. When you have it, your phone is ringing. When you have it, you're growing every day, every week, every month, every quarter. Your customers are calling and thanking you. That's when you have product market fit. You talked about funding and team. I think funding is obviously crucial, because you got to pay the bills. And depending on what kind of business you're starting, my experience is in tech businesses and software and venture capital backed businesses. And the job of the CEO is one of the jobs of the CEO is to always be thinking about that next funding milestone and what needs to be true to earn the funds that you want to get from other people. That is the very real path of most venture capital backed businesses. But that's not the only way to do it. The other way to do it is to pay for it yourself, and I'm saying venture capital or other. I guess you could, of course, you borrow or get a loan or things like that. But if you're going to fund it yourself, then you have to be really careful that you're earning every dollar that you spend, because it's so easy to get out ahead. And I see this happen a lot with entrepreneurs.
Need to do 10 things before they start selling something, or they need their website to be perfect, or they need their logo to be the best in the world, or they need their business cards. The truth is, those are nice things to have that will be helpful to you, but they're not requirements to selling your first product or getting your first million in sales. You can go make things happen. The third thing you mentioned is the team. Building a company and building a business is absolutely a team sport. And the best teams in the world and the most successful companies in the world are, whether they're big or small, but success as defined by the owner happens because you're surrounded by great people who are doing the work, and you as the entrepreneur are getting leverage. And leverage means your business grows and works while you sleep, because that's the way you want to set it up to be more successful and to make that happen. And I will tell you from personal experience, there are few greater feelings in the world than winning as a team. When you win as a team, it feels better than winning by yourself. So I encourage everybody to think about the people they surround themselves with, because it should make your job easier and it should make your life better.
Yes, absolutely. So going back to the first point of product market fit, it's one of my favorite topics. I remember I did watch a video on Y Combinator, YC on YouTube, and there was a specific video on product market fit where they were interviewing a company that is now worth a couple of $1 million. In fact, this founder actually sold the company, and now he's moved on to different ventures. Describe it like an 18-month journey of looking for product market fit. And eventually, when they found product market fit, um, in their own descriptions and kind of like paraphrasing what they said, it kind of felt like they lost control of the product. Because sometimes, as a founder, you build a product and you have a certain intent in mind, but the way the product is being utilized kind of differs. So that's one side of the spectrum. On the other hand, I've also read a lot of content around growth and growth hacking, right? So, in your journey, what is maybe where do we draw the line between reaching product market fit and actually seeing a need for growth? Because from the outside, we look at businesses like Facebook that came to being around 2004 and grew explosively, and it kind of looks like the growth is automatic. At what stage would you say that the growth is due to product market fit and meeting huge demand? And at what point do you realize that there is a need for a structured growth strategy going forward?
Ooh, there's a lot to unpack in there. Let me start by acknowledging your comment about sometimes you achieve product market fit and you lose control. And what that means, what I take that to mean, is that your customers are doing things with your product and seeing value in your product that you didn't think was the important piece. And all of a sudden, trying to think of a great example of this, and it'll come to me one in a minute, but you don't always know best. Your customers will tell you with what they're doing and how that drives success for them. There, in your second part about ascribing growth to product market fit work and then to growth hacking or something like that, I think you always have to grow. I appreciate in my business, you have to grow all the time. When you're raising money from other people, they want to give you $1 and they want it to be worth 10. So that means you need to, and you get 10, so you can get $10 from new people that they want to be 100. So you always have to be growing. And I don't know that there's a trade-off. I'll tell you that Facebook did not grow by accident. It has never grown by accident, whether they talk about it or not. Growth hacking is about methodically testing levers and data points to try to drive more growth. Product market fit is a methodical set of tests to trying to grow numbers. because you're measuring it by how many people are using it and if they're using it the way that you think they would. So I don't think I would draw the line there as being different one way or the other. It's just a different chapter of the company and growth that needs to happen.
Sure. Thanks for that. I'm pretty sure you've noticed that I like to ask questions of like two conflicting schools of thought. So the next one is on funding. Because on one hand, it's kind of, maybe, can I call it trendy within the startup community to start a business with the expectation that eventually a venture capital or an angel is gonna invest in the business. And then you have another school of thought where I've come across founders who are very successful. I actually do know one who is based out of Texas, and he has a business that he's grown and scaled into a franchise, and it's worth over $100 million. And in talking to him, he did state that he believes that he's like the sole owner of the business. So
Yeah.
it was more gradual. It didn't scale quickly like some businesses do when they eventually get funding, where they can eventually hire a whole bunch of people. But over, let's say, 15 plus years, he scaled it, and it's a massive business. And he believes in not getting funding from additional investors and venture capital. So, look at these two schools of thoughts. What would you say would be the consideration for any entrepreneur who's watching this?
Yeah, I think, look, if you don't raise money from other people, you own more of the company, and you capture more of the upside. So it's just math. Raising money is selling pieces of the company to fund its growth. I think it's very personal and specific to the use case or the product or the person. So I happen to have raised venture capital for all of the businesses I've done because I've wanted to prioritize on speed to market, to capture market, to be first to market, and to innovate in an expensive way with technology, in proprietary technology that takes money, and um, I didn't want to spend or didn't have my own money to spend. So there's a whole system set up around the world to get other people's money to do it. So that's how I decided to build my businesses. But I would, if I could have started all of my businesses and have all of my jobs and never raised another dollar from anybody else, and had the same outcomes, I would have loved to have done that. Would have made more money. Um, and but when your friend in Texas, if he didn't take any money from anybody, that means he spent every dollar to build that business himself. And that means, back to what I said before about bootstrapping and earning every dollar that you spend. I'm sure he invested some of his own money up front, and was whether that was a little for him or a lot for him, I'm sure it was something. I suspect it was something that he had to test and learn or take the first steps, hoping he would get a return from that, so that he could then invest more money into the business and grow it that way.
Yes, indeed. He actually comes from a pretty affluent background
Well, there
in
you
terms
go.
of upbringing. But from what he did mention, even though he was quite privileged, he didn't really get that helping hand from his parents. So he did mention that at some stages in his business, in the early stages, he did acquire some property through like funding structures. So he was a bit creative about how he went through that. On the other hand, he did mention some hardships. Initially, he even highlighted how at some point he even had to like split a sandwich with his girlfriend. So it was pretty rough. I mean, he
Yeah.
did bootstrap his way.
It is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no easy job. So maybe looking back at your journey, obviously people look at your interviews on NBC, they look at the headlines, the successful exits, and it's obviously not for the faint of heart. It's not a rosy journey. Tell us about a couple of examples where, let's say, on the funding side of things were kind of tight in terms of the burn rate versus the income that was coming in, and how you overcame those challenges.
Yeah. When I was first hired to be the CEO at Bitly, which is a company that shortens a lot of links, bit.ly, and I was the third CEO in the company. There was a founding CEO, then another one, then me. And when I got there, company was doing about $1 million in revenue and was burning hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And the existing investors were not keen on putting more money into the company. And we made the decision as a leadership team that we needed to get profitable, because we were like, there was no scenario where we lived if we couldn't get profitable. And so as a team, we decided, and there's two ways you get profitable. You grow your top line and you reduce your bottom line. The company was not going to get a whole lot smaller than it was when I got there. So we focused on growing our way to profitability and getting control over the company so that we didn't need external funding at any time going forward. And we didn't until we sold it. And that was a very methodical approach to understanding our target market, our target customer better, putting in place new pricing, new packaging, new sales motions, and investing what we had pretty heavily into the existing customer relationships we had so we could grow those as well. So we went, we knew that in a tight time, you need to be growing and we needed to have control over the business. And we were successful in getting the company profitable and then grow through high growth, which was a really lucky way to do it. We were lucky to be able to execute that well.
Oh, that's really awesome and insightful because sometimes I compare how early founders think, the less experienced ones, and what their perception of the fundraising experience and managing expectations of investors is versus the real experience of people who are quite seasoned in that. So I recently read a book by Ray Dalio. It's titled Principles, and he really talks a lot about culture, talks a lot about people management, getting to the root cause when something doesn't go well, and discerning whether it's due to incompetence of someone in your team or if it's due to some upskilling or training that's needed. So how has the experience been of like building culture, the right culture in the team, and how has that in your experience contributed to the success that you've had? And I believe that I'm asking the right person, given that you had a high approval rating on Glassdoor.
Thank you for asking. Culture is everything. Culture kills strategy. Or eats strategy. I forget who said that. It wasn't me. But a good culture is a winning team. It's a team that tries so hard to accomplish a goal and wants to do it together in a way that's meaningful. For me, how I like to do that, and I've always liked to do that, is with the mixture of a couple of things. One, it starts with the mission, vision, and values for the company. Here's what we're trying to do. This is the world that we see that we want to build. At Castiron, which was Etsy for homemade food, we wanted to our mission and vision was to empower a new type of entrepreneur who may not have had access to all of the venture capital funding or the easy button of entrepreneurship that's afforded to some in this country and on this planet. So we had a big vision and a dedication to our customer before anything else. So mission and vision is super, super important. Values is the second thing. What are the things that we as a company think are important? Whether that's integrity or customer centricity or joy and whimsy or we give it our best effort. There's things that you can set up as the entrepreneur that says, hey, here's the market that we're in, here's the customer that we're trying to serve and that we're really passionate about serving, and here's how this is the types of behavior that we think are important that we're going to value as a company. And so mission and vision, values are number two. And then the third is authenticity. I think that people are really smart and they want to work with people that are honest, that have high integrity, and that they know isn't feeding them a line of BS. So being honest about what you're good at, honest about what you're concerned about, honest about what's working and what's not. And that breeds a culture of accountability, responsibility, humanity, integrity, and that you're playing for something bigger than you would otherwise. And so everywhere I go and everyone I work with, I'm always asking about mission, vision, values from the start.
Sure, that's really insightful, and it's really interesting that right now you're in the food business with your current business, and I know that it's a highly competitive field. I was actually in one of the biggest food conferences in the world, and it just reminded me how competitive it is. So I've seen that you've gone from the URL shortening service and link management platform to the food business, and you've been successful in multiple fields. So, as a CEO, what would you say are the qualities that help you succeed despite being in different industries? Because obviously, the skill set and knowledge that you need per industry is quite different.
Yeah, and the skill set and knowledge of a CEO. I'm a student of the game. I love. I'm not a CEO anymore. We sold Castiron a couple of months ago, and now I coach CEOs full time. But the the job is the same, more or less. It's the things I talked about. What's our mission? What's our vision? What's our strategy for building something successful? And um, then it's about building a team to make that happen. Somebody, not me, one of my early investors said that a CEO's job is to do three things. One, set the strategy for the company. This is where we're going. This is what we want to do and how we want to get there. Number two is to attract and retain and develop amazing talent, a team of people that can execute on the strategy and the vision that you've set out. And the third thing is make sure you don't run out of money while you're doing one and two. And so um, I am, I was in cast iron was a food business, but um, it had a SaaS component and a marketplace component, and it was all online. So for me, it was are we targeting a good market? Have we found a good customer? Have we found a go-to-market strategy that works? Can I surround myself with people smarter and better than me to help execute on it and do the things that we need to do? So I don't view them as all that different, though certainly our customers were different, but the process of building a company was pretty similar.
That's awesome. That's really informative. So, as we get close to the close of the chat, I must say that it feels richer than most MBA classes that one can have. So, so to those who are listening, who are either, let's say, aspiring to work for a startup and join a startup team, and those who are employees and are considering becoming entrepreneurs, what would be some of the considerations? What points would you advise them to consider for each?
I would make sure that you understand who you're working with, and I care more about the people than I do about the business. If you're going to join a company, make sure you've done your homework on the people who are running the company uh, first. Are they smart? Are they kind? Do they have integrity? Do they know what they're doing? Do they treat people well? Do they, I would talk to current employees and I would talk to former employees and really try to understand about what kind of person they are, because when you're starting or running a company and you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have hard days. You are going to have hard weeks. You're going to have hard months. I hope you don't have hard years, but there will be plenty of hard times. And it's important to know the people who have their hands on the wheel, because you want to make sure that they've got a steady hand. I think if you are thinking about starting a company and doing something yourself, do your homework first. I'm not saying you have to build a business plan and a 12-page template or something, but understand at least the math of the business. And by math, I mean how many of the like how many potential customers are there that you can sell to, and how can you actually get to them? Do you know how to get to them, to talk to them? And then of how many, if you get to talk to 100, how many do you realistically think you can sell to? And then how much do you think they'll pay? And just do some math and see how big the business can be, or is it big enough for you to be successful and to live the life that you want to live? So I wouldn't take anything for granted. It is incredibly difficult. So the more work you can do up front to reduce the open questions, or at least to understand the questions that you need to have answered, will go a long way.
Sure. Thanks so much. That's really informative. I really wish that we could go on for another 30 minutes, but obviously, you do have commitments. I'd like to thank you so much once again for joining us on the show, which is our first live. Hopefully, first of many lives. What would be the last consideration you'd like to leave for the audience you're listening? By the way, we do
Uh,
have a couple of people joining from outside the U.S., not only in the U.S.
Amazing. Well, I would say you've got this. The power that you have inside of you and the drive and the will is unmatched. And I believe in you. I have a love for entrepreneurs. I love working with entrepreneurs. I love talking to them, and I get so much energy from them. So hopefully, I'll give a little plug. You can connect with me on Intro, which is intro.co, intro.co/Mark Josephson. And that's MarkJosephson, intro.co/Mark Josephson, and set a time for us to talk. I'd love to help.
Thank you so much. That's really informative. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the people who are listening found that information helpful, and I do hope that they do have fruitful connections to you. So to everyone who's listening, thank you so much for joining. Please do free to drop a comment, drop a question. We'll be happy to answer those. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. That's going to help us get our content to as many people as possible. Thanks so much, Mark. God bless you for joining us.
Thank you. God bless you all.